but it was just so prominent. It
I
was like the
know.
way the
Yeah.
camera captured it. It was
Yeah.
like, oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not interested.
I feel weirdly tall.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm going to start off with the public hearing for the fiscal year 25 tentative budget. First up is a motion. I move to enter into a public hearing for the fiscal year 25 tentative budget.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mrs. Squires.
Yes.
Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. The next agenda item is a public hearing to receive public comments on the fiscal year 25 tentative budget. All persons desiring to be heard will have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony. May I have a motion to move into the public hearing?
Did we already do that? We need two motions?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Yep.
So moved.
I move to enter into a public hearing for FY25 tentative budget.
This public hearing is to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 25 tentative budget. Anyone who wishes to be heard will have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony. Ms. Green, are you going to present for us now?
Sure, I'm going to try to keep this brief. Dr. Weisman, do you have the chart of the fund balances?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'd like to start out by talking about the fund balances. We have some historical fund balances. These are as of the fiscal year end, which is June 20th of each year. So in 2020, our fund balance was $29,373,456. It grew over a period of time. In 22-23, the fund balance increased to $53,669,317. That increase was partially caused by the referendum that passed, and when we received our taxes in May and June, that increased the fund balance. Moving on to the next year, we do have another increase in our fund balance ending in June 30th of 2024. That's an unaudited number, but probably pretty close to where we will end up after the audit. So that big increase is good for us because we're looking at adding an addition of the locker room, and a portion of that will be used, that fund balance will be used towards the locker room addition, which right now is estimated to be about $16 million. So the following year, our fund balance will decrease based on some transfers that we're going to be doing to move the money out of the working cash, which is the fund that's holding the money that we're going to be able to use. So on the next chart, I'm just going to give you a couple of quick highlights. This was in the your board documents, but this year, in the spring, our taxes that we received 51% of our taxes that we were allocated for this year. By receiving that before June 30th, that means that the taxes that we are receiving now in the fall, we are receiving 49% of the taxes. So a little bit less than we had last year at this point in time. Another point I wanted to bring up was because interest, when I budgeted interest last year, I pretty much underestimated how much interest was going to come in because,
Shocked by that.
yeah, well, they were saying our interest rates were going to
You
drop.
said you were conservative.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
very conservative. This year I budgeted more in interest, but I was also conservative. I budgeted more, but rates are starting to drop again, or they are actually dropping now. So, and then the other note I wanted to talk about on revenues is evidence-based funding has increased by about $193,000, but our ESSER 3 grant is now gone. As far as expenditures, we have the increases in salaries and benefits. The salaries according to our contract with our teachers. We did have some additional staff hires, including 6 more security guards. O&M, we're purchasing some new equipment to replace some aging equipment. Transportation, we put all new cameras and on the buses, along with software to support those cameras. And then in Fund 60, which is capital improvement, we have Phase 2 roof project, which has finished up this past summer, and we are now looking at Phase 3 for next summer. So I've budgeted accordingly in those funds. Also in Fund 60, we do have the locker room addition. Okay, so for this chart, I did want to go through the transfers because they're a little wonky. We have to follow ISB's recommendations or guidance as far as our transfers. But I do want to call your attention to the 5th column, which is the estimated beginning fund balance. And I apologize, I probably should have put in there that that beginning fund balance is as of 7/1 of 2024. And these are the unaudited fund balances as of 7/1 of 2024. The 6th column is where, with this budget, I am estimating that we will have our estimated fund balance as of 6/30 of 2024. Now, for the transfer, I'm not sure if we're going to spend 11 million this year for the locker room. We haven't finished design yet from the architect, and we do have a process we have to go through with bids and everything. So it's going to, take a couple months, and by the time we break ground, we may not have $11 million that we're spending at that point. But I budgeted for 11 million. So under working cash, the $11 million come out. I highlighted it in red, so that's a debit. It goes up to the operations and maintenance fund, so you will see that in the revenue line. And then immediately, we will move it over to an expense line to move it down to capital improvements. We also have a $4 million transfer that's going to be coming out of operations and maintenance, and that is for our 10-year facility plan. The last thing I wanted to just go over is just to talk about how this chart works, because you can see for the education fund that I'm estimating that $69,970,471 will be coming in revenue. Our expenses I've estimated to be $68,874 or $874,570. So revenues are over expenditures by $1,095,901. When you take our beginning fund balance and add in the $1,095,000, you will end up with that estimated ending fund balance. So you can just read it across how each, the impact. So some of the funds, they look like, well, they will be negatively, they will end up as negative when you look at revenues over expenditures or expenditures over revenues. But in column 5, we have the fund balance there, so it can absorb if we overspend in any fund. And then the only item left that I just wanted to have you look at is there's a leasing fund, which is right under education. That leasing fund we use for our copier leases. That fund is a sub-fund of the education fund. So when you look at the audit, sometimes the auditor will talk about the leases and the leasing fund, but when the numbers come in, that leasing fund rolls into the education fund. So sometimes it's hard to see when you look at the actual budget because the leasing fund and the education fund are basically rolled up together. I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question that I think you already answered, but that was a lot of information. The transportation fund, where it shows spending more than we take in, that's because of the cameras?
There's cameras, there's also, there's salaries, there's benefits, there's leases, the buses are leasing. My plan is when we do the levy, I'm gonna levy higher in the
Okay.
transportation fund to bring in more revenue for that fund. Right now, we do have a fund balance that, we can, it will absorb some of that negative impact, but my plan is to levy more to be able to maintain that fund balance that's in that fund.
Okay, because that's not all just the one-time expense of the cameras. That's what I
No,
was, yeah,
no.
okay.
No,
Negative is not just the cameras?
the negative is not just the cameras. The cameras, I believe, were about 200,000, so, but we do have bus leases that are pretty high. We are going to be redoing bus lease for about 24 buses for next year, so that expense, and I have thought about a different way to finance those rather than go through a leasing company. So I can talk to you more
Okay.
about that in the next couple months.
All right, great. Thanks for working on that.
Questions?
Me.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Ms. Love, could you read into the record any written testimony concerning the proposed fiscal year 25 tentative budget?
We have not received any.
Is there any person or persons who would like to provide oral testimony or public comments concerning the proposed fiscal year 25 tentative budget? Okay. All persons desiring to be heard have been given the opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect to the fiscal year 25 tentative budget. The fiscal year 25 tentative budget has been placed on tonight's agenda as an action item. I now move to close the public hearing for the 25 tentative budget and return to open session.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mrs. Pope? Yes. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. As we start every open session, if we could stand up and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to make a slight change to the agenda. We're going to go down to action item 10B, the approval of a tour for social studies. You wanted it moved up, not down, right? Yeah, okay, just checking.
Hang on a second. Do we have to change, we're gonna vote for that or not?
Change the order of the agenda?
I think,
It's okay.
I think
Never mind. Go
I
ahead.
think it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Break a rule here?
I don't want to get in trouble. You
Rule
know, that's-
breaker.
Right.
We'll let you know later.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you for letting me kind of get up here a little sooner. It seems like I come here every year around this time. My name is Tim Van Lanningham. I am a social studies teacher at the Eau Plaine campus. This is my 17th year at Warren. And this is I believe it's my 8th year being part of a group. We call ourselves Warren on Tour. We lead social studies trips, international trips every spring break. And I'm here again to propose a new trip for next school year's spring break, which is 2026. We are hoping to return to Europe. Last year, we went to Japan. We had 47 Warren people with us going to Japan, 41 students. This coming spring break of this school year, we're going to Argentina. We have 29 students headed to Argentina. So we see our program really being successful. something that students and families want more of, and so we want to continue to provide that for people. So officially, the name of the trip that we're proposing for 2026 is called Europe's Mediterranean Coast. Basically, it skirts along the southern coast of Europe. We are in Italy, we are in France, and we're in Spain. If you want to know specifics about what we're doing there, I can gladly let you know. Just ask. We haven't been to Europe for 2 years. Like I mentioned, Japan and then Argentina coming up. So we felt like since we were constantly dealing with new clients, so to speak, new students every 4 years coming through, we want to constantly offer Europe every so often, just because of the draw that has for a lot of students. They want to see things that they've seen in their history books and in their textbooks and online and things like that. So we want to go back to Europe for that. Personally, I've visited Barcelona once and really fell in love with the city. And so I'm excited personally about taking a group of students there. We've never been to Barcelona as part of our program. We've never actually been to Spain with part of our program. I know other Spanish teachers over the years have taken trips to Spain and whatnot, but I'm really excited about this destination. A little more information. We're going to continue to use the tour company that we've used for now 10 years. The name of the company is EF Tours. I've said this before to the board, but they are really respected as the best in the business. Other local high schools, including Stevenson, Libertyville, Grayslake, use EF Tours, and there's a reason why we continue to use them. They are responsive. They prioritize student safety. They are professional. And they create a really good itinerary that our students consistently really do enjoy. Part of what's rolled into the cost of the actual enrollment for students will be it's a travel insurance program, essentially. It's called the Global Protection Plan. It covers things like tour cancellation due to global events, illness or accident if the student can't travel because of something that's happened to them, baggage and property loss, flight delays, things like that. It provides a basic level of coverage, and then families can opt into a slightly more premium edition of that if they want to pay for the extra cost of that. That's optional though. In terms of cost, this tour right now is around $3,900. It will probably rise. The tour company has to raise prices at some point, and they usually raise prices in early October. So by the time we actually get this launched and kind of open for families, it'll probably be at that higher price point. So it'll be around $4,100. But we're launching this 17, 18 months in advance. So that way, when we think about it in terms of a monthly payment, the actual cost at the current price would be around $212 per month, which is actually the lowest price per month that we've been able to have since we went to Switzerland in 2019. So I feel good about that. We want prices to be open for as many families as possible. We don't want this to be a prohibitive thing. And so that's why I'm here now proposing a trip for next school year to try to make it more equitable so we can get more families involved. Last little thing, in terms of chaperones, we get one free adult chaperone for every 6 travelers. You do this every year. People are like, can I be the chaperone?
I raised my hand first.
And every year I say sure. But it will be, we try to recruit, we target Warren faculty. We've only in our history once needed somebody to step in when we had a chaperone, like literally open heart surgery at the last minute. We had to draw from a spouse of a Woodland teacher to kind of fill that, just whatever. You don't need to hear that story. But so we're gonna draw from Warren faculty, 6 to 1. I feel like there was one more thing I was going to say, but I think that about covers most of it. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you also to our district administrators who have supported me in various ways throughout this whole program. So I'm really excited about it. Well, I really enjoy it. So that's my spiel.
Questions?
Nope.
Not. I move to approve the Warren on Tour Social Studies trip to the Europe's Mediterranean coast scheduled for spring break 2026.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I'll put us back on track in the proper order.
Rule breaker.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Pope. I'm sorry, you're faster than I was here. Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is our time for public comment. I don't see that anybody signed in, but if anybody would like to address the board, they're welcome to 3 minutes. I'm assuming nobody wants to because there's just the usual suspects out there, so I'm just going to move right ahead to committee reports.
I do have just one committee report. I wanted to call some attention to the committee of the whole report. So there were a couple of things in there that I just wanted to call out, and then I asked Ms. Bertola if she could highlight a couple things that I think were pertinent. Specifically, the things I wanted to call out was Candy and I worked together. Mostly Candy did this, but after listening to the conversation, we added a new, what we would call archetype to our communication plan, and identified what we're calling, and I'm looking for some feedback on this, a hesitant family. So the way we've been thinking about how we communicate with families was mostly related to time and their ability from a time perspective to engage with our messaging, engage with the school district, and didn't recognize probably what I think the conversation was a couple weeks ago around comfort or confidence or familiarity with the structures and the processes. So we added this idea of a hesitant family, which is a family that wants to communicate with or to us, but for probably a handful of different reasons is hesitant to do such. Maybe they have tried and it hasn't worked the way they thought it would in the past, or they have some type of language barrier, or their familiarity with school systems has been in a smaller system in the past. So I just wanted to call that out. I'm open for some feedback on that. Connected to that probably was just something that maybe we want to start considering as a new idea, and figuring out, is there somewhere in our organization a place for us to have a person or people that can serve as hubs specifically for hesitant families. We do, for example, with some of the new referendum money, we have new positions that are just attendance hubs. So even though we have staff that reach out and work with families and are points of contact with families from a generalist point of view, we've been able to incorporate this idea of someone who's just focused on attendance, and they can be a family hub for attendance and supporting attendance and having conversations with families around attendance. Maybe we should be considering that type of idea when we think about our hesitant families. So just wanted to open up any of the conversation for continued feedback around those concepts.
So, I guess just to kick it off, I think that, changing our, focus somehow in our conversation or communication to deliver the message of how to communicate with us to which would be hesitant families, I suppose, because they don't know how. I think that would be a great idea. I think that's part of what we're hoping to accomplish, is to make it easier for people that don't know what we want them to do it. And maybe that's this person you're talking about, having somebody who could just be there, who obviously would be bilingual, so they could also communicate with people when they call in. So I think that's wonderful, and I think that's what we need to do if we're going to engage those families and those students, to help them, give them the opportunity to succeed, because that's what they really want. They don't want anything handed to them. They just want to know how to get in. How do I get in the system? So
I get the general concept. So do you have any thoughts, or does anyone have any thoughts about
what that position, like on a monthly, weekly, daily basis, I'm not talking about a job description, I'm just like, what would that look like? Like what would they be calling, reaching out? Would they be doing focus, like group education type of things for parents, for new parent? I mean, I'm just trying to throw out things like, what would it look like, I wonder? Like, are there any ideas? Has anyone thought?
Since our conversation at this committee of the whole meeting, I've been thinking about the phrases "a warm welcome" and "a warm handoff." That, and I think thinking about hesitant families is helpful because that describes someone who might have an idea that the school might be able to help with whatever it is, but isn't sure how to get started with that. And so if we can find a way for every family to contact the school and be able to rely on a warm welcome, and that whatever the problem is, there will be a warm handoff to, if somebody else is the person you actually need to talk to. I won't just get a phone number, but I will get help actually making that connection.
I think saying, Beth, is, if I may paraphrase a little bit, is that I think there's two parts to the process. One is educating people where to find it, and the other is having somebody there to actually do it.
Yep.
Now, maybe
I
that
agree.
person does both in the beginning, and our hope would be maybe that takes more,
With each class.
yeah,
maybe,
whatever, I don't know.
right?
Yeah, however you want to do it, but I think that's still the people have to know, right? I mean, they have to understand where that warm welcome is, or whatever the case may be. Then the after part is who's gonna actually follow through and run through the maze and so on. So I think that's, I don't know if that's two different people, but it might be a partial part of two people, but whatever, I don't
Something
know.
like incoming freshmen where you can see on Facebook all the questions that get answered and fielded, and I'll find out, or I'll try and find that person for you, or whatever. I could see that maybe coming off of Facebook and coming to the school, like, that would be a nice function that we could serve. So I'm like wondering, are they like almost, I don't want to say freshman focused, but it probably would be a lot of initial need. And then hopefully not as much as people, walk through the processes unless there's a new need or whatever. But I'm just trying to think through, like,
Yes,
like a maybe, 50% up front, and then as people are going through their 3 years, have less of a need to have that assistance. I don't know. I'm just talking through it, really.
Yeah, I also think it makes a lot of sense to have a freshman focus. We don't necessarily have anybody on staff that is really thinking about how do we service families. We are really good at servicing kids. We're always trying to get better at servicing kids and recognizing more how we can incorporate families into that solution. We don't really have somebody that's specifically that's their focus. We're trying to bring families in, but specifically that focus. I've thought about it probably from like 4 or 5 types or buckets of things that this person or that type of person would do. There'd be some just general outreach, and probably that's a lot of answering questions, some like generic outreach. I heard some really good feedback around training of how do you work in our system. How do you do that when you're here physically? How do you do that when you're home? I think there are some possibilities around organizing opportunities for families to use the school in the evenings or on the weekends for educational purposes for themselves that might get them into the building and build some comfort for them and some familiarity that we have space, we're a public space, we service the community, and if there are ways that we can be helping our families better understand just different parts of life or provide services for them, we could do that there, do that here, but someone would have to organize that. And then I feel like in different groups that I've been in, when we've talked about family outreach, there's this idea of there's probably parents that have been here for years and are willing to volunteer a little bit of their time to help onboard or be that warm hand. but we don't have anybody that's coordinating that family core, or that volunteer core, that ambassador, or, yeah.
Hey, it's basically talking customer service.
We haven't introduced Madeline yet, but I'm curious if Madeline, I'm going to introduce her in a minute, but I'm curious if Madeline has any thoughts around, when you think, Madeline, of your friends and families that you know, and the school district, what different types of, or if you have any thoughts on what different types of things we could be doing as a school district to support families. Not the student necessarily directly, but families, if you have any thoughts on that. If you don't, that's okay too, but.
You had mentioned hesitant families, and I thought of like a lot of families with language barriers who are a little too scared to ask like even their own kids, because their kids would be too nervous to ask their like staff members what's happening around the school. So then a lot of families with language barriers don't really know what's going on. So I feel like I think Mr. Anderson mentioned this earlier, like who's willing to give them the time to actually be able to welcome these families, especially if there's like a language barrier between these families. And I think a lot of times if we want to reach families, I feel like time is also very like necessary. A lot of parents can't make it to a lot of like open houses or talk to teachers specifically. So I feel like if we would incorporate like social media or a lot of like newsletters, I feel like parents would be able to reach out more or have the more like confiability to talk to staff members.
Those are a couple of things I wanted to pull out. We can keep talking about it. Otherwise, Ms. Bertol is going to share a couple of things.
We could start with the Welcome Center, creating something there, right, in a small piece.
Yeah, that's a good, why don't we segue into that? Michelle, you want to come up? We were going to just give everybody an overview of kind of where we're at with the Welcome Center this year.
Sure. Okay. You can pass this around while I talk. So this is part of what I'm going to talk about. This is what our new families get when they are welcomed at the Welcome Center. And this is just a brief overview. So take a look and then pass that. Okay. So we're super excited. We opened our Welcome Center this year. If you build it, they will come. That's our motto. And so the idea is we wanted a space. We just got a lot of feedback from stakeholders on wanting a space to welcome families in and have a space for when their whole family comes and they've got kids and running around. Instead of cramming into a counselor office, we want space for them first and foremost, and we want resources. So we want a space for, it never sat well with us when families need help, for example, with Power School or technology, to just like not really have a workstation or space that we can sit alongside them and walk them through that. And so the whole idea of the Welcome Center is to provide a space to welcome families in, have space to offer technology help, have space to, have their whole family there if need be. And so basically, we created the space, but we also had to think through our processes to how can we improve the intake process. So some of the things our team's been doing, our counselors now start the process in the Welcome Center. So they greet families at our north entrance. They start in the Welcome Center. We have workstations there so they can sit alongside and they can project on a screen the scheduling process. They get a welcome bag. And so you'll kind of see some Warren goodies and a folder of information. We just improved some of the things that we had done in that process. We also added that anytime a counselor does set up an appointment with a new family, they put it on the principal's calendar. So one of the principals, if not all three of us, will go and welcome the family and student, which is really nice. That's been awesome. Because a lot of times we would just in passing meet them because they toured the building, but now it's just part of our process and structure. Then they get their bag of goodies. They go over kind of a checklist of things, information. They get a tour of the building. They get matched if they're new to Warren. So if they're a transfer student and are coming in, they get matched with a Warren ambassador for mentorship. And then another part of the process that we changed is we just started. We're just a couple weeks in. We've already had 5 families reply. So a week after they go through that process, we send a follow-up welcome email and a survey on the Welcome Center on the main goals of it, and we get feedback, and it's all been really great so far. But we want specific feedback on, did you get the information you needed? How did we welcome you? And so here's some pictures of the space. We're really happy with how it turned out. And so on those shelves, we're building resources too and trying to build some partnerships with the community. If you see on the overview, there's a lot of things you've been discussing so it's just up and running, but we have really big aspirations for this space. So some of the things we're striving for are listed there: educational programs, getting groups of families together around topics of need, providing classes, providing workshops. So we have great things. A community closets phase 2, that's going to be second semester. We have storage beyond this space that we want to create for additional resources for our families. And it's private, so then after they go through, if we're envisioning, coats, clothes, just some things that if families are in need, they can walk through and our Warren community can contribute and help. So we're really excited. Here's just an example of Chad meeting with a new family, and we got to greet them. And so we're really, really, really excited. It's got a lot of potential it's not just about the space, it's about what we can do for our families in the space. And it's really a welcome for our kids every day too. The attendance is in the front part. So we're welcoming kids every day that are coming in late or needing passes. So it's just, the whole idea is just, what are people experiencing when they're entering our community or our building on a day-to-day basis? So.
I love the list of clubs and activities in there, like in that packet, so that people can get acquainted with that. That was cool. Thanks.
Yeah, we brought together all, like our student service team, everybody who has our registrar, our clerical, we brought together the whole team, anyone that touches intake from start to finish. And we did a huge brainstorm session on what are improvements, what have we learned. And so it's not just about the space being new. We've really tried to reflect on the process from start to finish. And so some new things were added. We've always done an informational folder, but we really thought through what was really needed, what could be taken out, what's probably better. Information overload's a little overwhelming too. So we were trying to, we made some improvements on some of that.
How long has this been open? Remind me.
A month.
So
I mean, we just caught the tail end. We didn't quite hit our busiest season, but we started hitting the busy season of like mid-August. I mean, we had it,
so
about a month.
Therein lies my question. How do you, like when you have an entire class of 9th graders coming in, how do you accommodate what you're trying to achieve with the quantity of kids that might be coming all at once?
So this is mainly for students who are enrolling after the start of the school year. So
you're not thinking this is a process for kids at the beginning of the school year?
Yeah, it's not a process that every family would go through, but it would be a process that, I mean, eventually when we build some of the opportunities we want to provide, it'd be open to all families, but it's mainly helping families transition in once the school year started, but on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, that's helpful. So it could, as it continues, become an option to a family that might need the extra support or want it, or...
Yeah, so for someone who's maybe registering in the summer, but needs tech help, come on in. All right, and we can have people sit alongside you. We've got 4 different workstations with technology. We have access to printers in here. If you need to copy your registration documents, you're having a hard time uploading them. So yes, it's available to everybody. It would be an opportunity, but it wouldn't be a set process that every family walks through this space. But the opportunities provided there would be open to all families. And the supports that we envision expanding and offering and would be open to everybody.
Or in the summer, or even in August, for the families who are registering after the fact, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. So they're coming in, they're sitting down and registering, so they have the computers up there. Who's attending that? Who's attending that? Is it the registrar? Is it someone who is like the bilingual counselor?
Counselors, so our bilingual or any of the regular counselors. Priscilla Vasquez has been in here quite a bit, translating and helping families with, in the process. But it starts with the counselor starts the process, and then the counselor tacks on if Priscilla's needed, if Sandy Moran's needed because they're a newcomer. So then Sandy will come greet. So it kind of depends on the situation. If they have an IEP, case managers are brought in. So anybody kind of based on the needs of the student and family could get brought in, it could be added to their calendar, and they're part of the
So this
meeting.
isn't a walk-in, this is by appointment?
It's by appointment.
Okay.
Mhm.
Would we ever consider saying, hey, let's make, I don't know, like at the beginning of August, we're gonna do a walk-in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you send out a mass email to say, hey, anyone who needs support with registering online, you need this, you need that, these 3 days we're a walk-in, come on in.
Mhm. Yeah, I envision that, and I envision probably some support staffing needed with this. We did a lot of site visits, because a lot of schools have welcome centers and they use them in different ways, and they have them anywhere from part-time staff to full-time staff, sometimes by school, mostly always some sort of school oversight, but also sometimes parents that volunteer and come in, especially some of the like community closet side of it. So there's just a range of ways that we've seen it be maintained in different capacities depending on your goal. It's really exciting.
Very nice.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
Absolutely.
I
do
really
too.
appreciate your willingness to, like, you've been here a long time, and I'm sure you've been doing all these things another way, but to imagine doing it
Package it
differently
in a
to
room.
address the needs that are coming up, I just appreciate your willingness to do that, so.
Well, and I know Rob and I have talked about this. This is like our dream for years. Like we've both wanted it. It's always sometimes an issue of space. So it was nice because with our enrollment going down a little bit, this space was a classroom that was only being used 2 periods a day. And so we're like, we can't, that's 6 periods a day. This room's not getting used. And so we refurbished, so this has been something we've really been wanting to do on both sides of town. We have big aspirations, but spacing has been an issue. And now with enrollment, we finally had an opportunity to refurbish a space. And so that was awesome too.
Appreciate you reaching out and doing something different like this. I mean, I love the change. It's just gonna make us even better.
It has a lot of potential for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Another idea we just wanted to bring up that was related, I think, to the committee of the whole conversation and is part of our plan on a page, but we want to do a touch point with the board on is Link Crew, which is it came up at the last meeting specifically because it's a freshman support program, and so if Ms. Bertola, if you
This
could
has
just
also
talk us
been
through
on the
that
wish
bit.
list for a really long time. Our transition to high school and providing mentoring for students by students has been something we've wanted, and we've tried in our own way to make this happen, and it hasn't been sustainable because we haven't been able to put systematically what we need behind it. Like we tried to do it once on our own administratively, which was awesome. I love my team, but it was an insane lift, and we did it. It was over COVID, and we tried to do it virtually, and we tried to, everyone had a certain amount of teams, and we actually did get student leaders to do it, and I still have those student leaders. Rob and I joke, they'll like be up to us, they're like, are we doing Link Crew? Do we have Link Crew? We want to do Link Crew. Can we set up? And we're like, and so I think there's definitely a need for incoming freshmen to have mentorship, and it's always a challenge we have with the split campus. Is it challenging? This is a national program. A lot of schools do it, and I hear so many good things from schools who do it. Would we have challenges with our split campus? Yes. But is it possible? 100%. I mean, we'd have to overcome some things, but I think we could do it. I think upperclassmen would love to be leaders for incoming freshmen. It provides them a great opportunity. I think incoming freshmen would really benefit since they don't on a day-to-day basis have juniors and seniors, but if we create structure and opportunities for them to be mentored, would be really good for them. So it's just a great way to build leadership and provide support for incoming freshmen throughout the year. So these are the main components. It's not just the first couple of days. It's pretty heavy early on, but it's actually a year-round program. Heavier first semester than second, but there's things throughout the year, both kind of academic support focused, social support, and just sort of having a go-to. So we're excited to try to move this forward and create structure and some staffing to help with it. It's a heavy lift. It's
very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the request we're going to come to with here shortly is we'll work with the Appendix B committee from the association, but we really need to talk about a stipend for staff that can be doing this. similar to like a student council stipend, for example. It's not an exorbitant amount of money, but we do need to do that here shortly because Link Crew does national training, and we need to make sure that those people go through the training process here in the winter.
Great program.
So I've told Michelle's team I think the board would be happy to fund a program like that.
Yeah.
But just wanted to bring it here and touch base with you on that. Madeline, I'm curious from your perspective, what types of things would make you want to be a Link Crew leader, someone who's mentoring younger students?
I think it just sounds exciting in general, and the fact that Ms. Bertola mentioned that you don't see a lot of juniors and seniors on a day-to-day basis, and I feel like it would help connect a lot of students because they might be too scared to ask a staff member, but they might feel more connected to a student to hear their perspective and advice on school.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's, like I said, we've been doing great work, trying to lift it without the supports. The whole staff has been doing that for 20 years. So I think we don't want to lose sight of the great work that's been done. We want to support everybody to do more great work. So I think that's part of what the process is. So, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else for committee reports.
Want to go on to superintendent's report?
So I'll introduce, or maybe I'll ask Madeline to introduce herself to the board.
So I'm Madeline, and this is my second year here at Warren. And so far, the school year has been going really good. I'm able to connect more with my teachers since I am an upperclassman, like in the higher grade of the Old Plain campus. So I'm able to see more teachers and connect with them more. And I'm able to help a lot of the freshmen navigate to their classes, people that I recognize in my middle school year, that I'm able to help them out more and help them get involved more in their in the school.
A couple things I wanted to point out that I don't think are in the written update. I do want to give a shout out to our facilities crew. We just had the annual regional office audit for our facilities, and they've done a lot of work, and the annual audit came in a lot cleaner than it has in the last couple of years. So I want to give them a shout out. I want to also give a shout out to Candy, who's here. We had a community mailer that was hitting mailboxes last week. I think we had some good reception of that. It was good quality work, and I appreciate the board's support to keep the community updated on what's happening in the school district, not just when we're asking them to consider financial support, but just on an ongoing basis, and appreciate Candy's approach of trying to make sure they know what types of activities are happening here in the fall, winter, so that they can possibly come. And then want to give a shout out to Michelle and Rob. They're doing some heavy lifting. We've got wind time coming up. I think next Thursday? Next Thursday is the first wind time. I'm really proud of them for that work and proud of the staff for that work and thinking about how can we use our day differently. It requires a little bit of extra effort from staff to come up with sessions that the students can attend, but they've done a great job at collaborating around how can we as a system offer the right sessions so that we're not, so we're doing efficiently and effectively, even if it means that a student might need to go to a teacher they don't necessarily have every day to get support on a topic. I'm really excited to see how that will go, and we'll learn a lot from it the first time, and we'll do it a second time, we'll learn a lot again, and then hopefully this can lead us in conversations around how we can use our day differently in the future. That's all I had to add to my written report.
I just wanted to add one more comment on the community mailer. It's been a few years since the mailer's gone out, and I've gotten a phone call about it. But this was very positive. So I just want to thank anybody who put it together, who participated in it. I got a couple phone calls, and one person, a neighbor, stopped by, and she said it was just a great reminder of how great our high school is. I mean, it was, I think the word most people use is, they were so proud. It's like, wow, this is our high school. It was really great to hear. And so it's just a really good reminder to put out in front of everybody that, you know what, we've got a great school here. We got great teachers. We got great students. So, yeah, great video. Next up is the consent agenda. I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented, which includes athletic activities and volunteer personnel recommendations per Exhibit B, numbers B6 through B8 as posted. There are no personnel recommendations per Exhibit A at this meeting. The payment of bills dated September 24th, 2024, in the amount of $5,439,614.82. Regular meeting minutes of September 10, 24. Keep the executive session minutes closed for February 27th, 2024, March 19, 2024, April 23, 2024, May 28, 24, June 25, July 30th, and August 20th, 24. The resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim recordings, and the intergovernmental agreement between Exceptional Learning Collaboration, the ELC, and Warren Township High School District 121 for orientation and mobility services for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Squires?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. Next up are the discussion items. The first one's a discussion on the ISB Delegate Assembly.
So we weren't sure if we would over the weekend get the resolutions, so we have a spot here. We didn't get the resolutions. We can table this for the next meeting. You can talk if you want about who's going to get to go to the meeting. Your call.
Not it.
Not it. 1, 2, 3, not it.
Well,
I
I
can't
took
go. You
one
can't
for the
send me.
team.
You
Let's
can't
just
send
put
me.
it that way.
so informal vote. Who's not here? All in favor of Steve?
I don't know if it's a good idea either.
Yeah, okay. We'll just table that for now.
Okay.
I'll go.
Okay, thank you, John.
No problem.
Next up is the first reading of the district board policies.
This is just an opportunity to discuss if you had any question on the policies coming up.
With the intergovernmental cooperate agreement.
So I think this has been on the regional office has been trying to get this done for 4 years, really since the pandemic. Appreciate their willingness to finally get this over the finish line. This is just a mutual aid opportunity if the need exists in the future. He's asking all boards to approve it, but I didn't want to put it in front of you without some opportunity for discussion, because it's a big, it's not long, but it's a big agreement. So if you have any questions or you don't feel comfortable with it, we could talk about that now, and then I could go back to the regional office and work through that. I don't have any concerns personally.
All good.
Great, if we needed it, I think we'd be very thankful
Better
for it.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is a discussion on HSA contributions.
Yeah, so I've got some items listed in there. We will formally come to you with a proposal to accept a new high deductible healthcare plan for our employees. This is in addition and supplements the healthcare plans that we currently have for our employees. The district has seen, with I think most organizations are seeing this, a significant increase in healthcare costs for employees in the last handful of years. You're going to see that again this upcoming year, I assume. And so as we continue to try to find ways to save or be attentive to the costs of that, I think that's important so that we can put as many of our resources as possible into servicing students and making sure we're putting resources into student needs. We definitely want to take care of our employees, but do so in a cost-efficient way. So this provides, the high deductible plan is a cost savings to the district, but also provides some cost benefit to employees. So hopefully there'll be some overlap there, and some employees will find this advantageous. Usually, actually I don't know if usually the case is the right word, many times an organization will contribute to a health savings account, so I have a proposal there. I do need probably an informal thumbs up on that. We don't have the formal plan for you to approve yet, but we are presenting to staff in 2 weeks what the high deductible plan is, and so we want to put in there what the board is willing to contribute for the health savings account.
So if there's with the plan you have suggested here, is that still a net savings?
This would still be a net savings, so,
so to help offset whatever
yes.
increasing costs are coming down the pipe, which happen every year, whether we like it or not?
Correct. This is giving about a third of the savings back to the employee, to their health savings account.
I'm all for an HSA account. I think it's a great long-term financial tool for people. So I'm glad we're starting to go down this path. I will say, I agree we should contribute some to it. I don't know what other school districts or other organizations do, but to me, some of this seems a little bit rich. Some benefit should go to the employee to help encourage them, but really the biggest advantage of an HSA account is what the individual contributes and what they can save pre-tax and contribute and accumulate over the years. So that's just my thought.
Okay.
I'm not against it, certainly. I think it's a great idea. It's just a matter of balancing the richness of it with actually getting someone to do it, I guess. I don't know where that sweet spot is, but
Sure.
certainly better to start lower than higher.
Would we be talking about doing this annually or just a one-time to get them to move over?
I would say that at least when you introduce the plan, you should probably put this amount in, and then if you want to in the future consider lesser amounts, then you could always do that. I think that's your decision probably on an annual basis if you want to continue to do that or not, or change the amount on any given year.
My other question is, should we tie a contribution to a participation in some sort of a wellness program?
Yes, you could do that. So we currently have a 3% wellness incentive. I guess you could, it's supplemental to what's currently there, but we probably could tie an additional wellness incentive to it.
I don't know if this is gonna make sense. Maybe, Paul, you can make sense of it for me. But is there any way to, you talked about the richness, but we also talked about the participation. Is there any way to tier our thoughts of contribution to the participation so that like there's an increasing incentive both ways? You understand what I'm saying? So our contribution may grow as the numbers of people
Was more
participate. So kind of like a
Yeah.
offsetting to the offset. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm,
I hadn't thought about that. I mean, the concern would be if you increase it with time, at some point, the savings that we would get would be decreasing at the same time. And part of the reason to going to a plan like this is we need cost savings in our wellness plans and our insurance costs. Again, let's say we contribute, like on the single plan here, $500, the employee can still contribute thousands more every year pre-tax, and it's
Correct.
theirs for as long as they want it.
Correct.
So there's a big benefit just the employee to be able to participate in the plan. So, but that's just part of the education of it.
You have to see the long-term benefit of accumulating the dollars and having them grow for you so that maybe when you need a lot of money later in life, it's there.
They accumulate tax-free.
Right.
just the tax-free is a huge savings.
Yeah.
Huge.
30%?
Yeah.
They contribute, are they gonna contribute, will they have the option to contribute in a lump sum, or will you deduct that from payroll?
Most of the health savings account plans are by payroll.
Want to do it by payroll because that way it's pre-tax dollars, so you pay less taxes on your income.
Reduces your taxable income, as you go forward.
It is a heavy lift to get.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a lift to convince educators that we should. Oh, got it. Okay. I'll start over. It is a lift to convince Illinois educators it's important, we should, of the value of saving for future retirement, because their mindset is a pension mindset, and so they never see any of that money, never have to or are forced to think about putting some of that money aside for future consideration. Many of our staff do not contribute to a 403B or a 401k. Our mindset just isn't around looking for that tax savings or saving for the rainy day as much as people outside of a pension might be. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just acknowledging, like, yeah, that's part of the education process. We got to help people understand that.
No, that's good to hear.
Move forward.
I mean, I always look at it, you're losing 30% when you don't do it. Like, the 30% of
Right.
I mean, you're like losing 30% of your paycheck that you would have otherwise, so. It's an easy fix for me, but yeah, yeah, it's a big benefit.
So generally, do you think that these are contributions that we could live with? If I come back with a formal vote, are we okay enough?
You said these contributions represent about 30% of what we
About
would save in the.
30% of the savings, correct?
And that seems reasonable to me.
Okay.
Well, what do you said rich, so
I'm just going what I've seen outside of schools and other industries.
mm-hmm,
That's what I'm going on.
mm-hmm.
And typically, it doesn't matter what type of plan you have. I mean, $500 I'd say would be industry average. Because again,
Across the board?
across the board,
Across the board.
yeah.
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
like employee and spouse?
Yeah, doesn't matter what
Okay,
plan
I
you're in.
see. Mhm.
Yeah, and we could totally do that. This is new for us as an organization, and so I just need some clarity around what I should be showing staff members here in a couple of weeks, what they can expect as far as a contribution. So maybe more around just a flat rate, $500.
I like that.
Flat rate.
The 1250 is rich.
It is.
I mean, that would be a no-brainer for me. I'm sorry, but my father's child.
Okay, we'll move forward with that. Thank you. Okay, have anything else?
Okay, on to action items. First one is an adoption of the fiscal year 25 budget. Do we have any other thoughts, comments, questions on that? Not, I move to approve to adopt the fiscal year 25 budget, whereas the Board of Education of Warren Township High School District 121, County of Lake, State of Illinois, caused to be prepared in tentative form of a budget, and the secretary of this board has made the same conveniently available to the public and inspection for at least 30 days prior to the final action thereon. And whereas, as a public hearing was held as to such budget on the 24th day of September 24, notice of said hearing was given at least 30 days prior thereto as required by law, and other legal requirements have been compiled with. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of said district as follows. Section 1, that the fiscal year of this school district be, and the same hereby is fixed and declared to be the beginning July 1, 2024, ending June 30th, 2025. Section 2, that the following budget containing an estimate of amounts in each fund separately and expenditures from each be, and the same is hereby adopted as the budget of this district for said fiscal year.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Martinez. Mrs. Squires.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Next up is an approval for a consulting agreement for the roof.
So, We have Mr. Chuck Crowley and Mr. Scott Gordon here from CE Crowley. We are moving on to the third phase of our roof project. It is revised because we have phase 3 and 4 left, but phase 3 originally is butting up to where we're putting the locker room. So I asked CE Crowley to switch 3 and 4 so we wouldn't have both projects happening at the same time. So we are switching, and so phase 4 has now become phase 3. The proposal, it was in the board documents. The cost of the new phase is slightly higher than phase 4, or phase 3, the original phase 3. Anyway, the bid opening is November 12th, and we will come to the board to award the bid at the December meeting. If you have any questions for Mr. Crowley or Mr. Gordon, they are here to answer your questions.
I got no questions.
There were several items that we wound up like specifying last time we did this that we wanted to include. We'll include all those items again, like I think it was extra, if I'm not mistaken, extra care to like rain and things like that. We're good with all of that. All that's included. We're going forward again with all that. All right.
Because it blew off and we got rain in the building.
Well,
and
there's
all
that,
stuff.
ducks
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
hallway,
yeah.
people chasing geese.
There was a duck in the
I don't know.
hallway?
Yeah. So, I just wanted to make sure, you know, because we made those adjustments last time, I think, right? So,
Yes.
okay. Go.
Love those adjustments. Okay, if there's nothing else, I move to approve the consulting services proposal with CE Crowley and Associates for the O'Plain Campus Roof Replacement Phase 3.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mr. DeMonte,
Yes.
Mrs. Squires,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Hi, Chris, you're up again with a agreement between Quest Food Management.
So this is an annual MOU that we have with Quest. Quest uses our kitchen not only to service our district, but also to service District 56. District 56 gives us, pays us a portion for the use of the kitchen, but Quest also pays us for the use of the kitchen. So this is just renewal of that MOU that we do every year.
Questions? If not, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between Quest Food Management Services and Warren Township High School District 121 as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Martinez. Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Squires,
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Last up is disciplinary recommendation. Any more comments on this discussion? If not, I move to approve the disciplinary recommendation for student 2025-7.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mrs. Squires, Mrs. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. With that being said, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Pope. Mrs. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte,
Yes.
Mrs. Squires,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night, great weekend. Be safe.
Board members, I need every